This is about you and the role you can play as you rise up and take your place, as you get into position, as you connect with others who are crying out for change. And this is why I believe we can make it happen. But right now, the truth be told, reformers are struggling. Paul Collier, in his book, The Bottom Billion, Why the Poorest Countries Are Failing and What Can Be Done About It, says that in the countries in the bottom billion, there are struggles between brave people wanting change and entrenched interest opposing that change. He says it is time to do more to strengthen the hand of the reformers. Paul goes on to advocate for our future world to be livable. The heroes must win the struggle, but the villains have the guns and the money, and to date they have usually prevailed. That will continue unless we radically change our approach. We have to change the narrative. We will need reformers in every sphere of society, each with a mindset that has stepped out of the old and into the new. There are two important ways we can change our approach to make sure that reformers start winning. The first is to establish the four cultures that sustains reform communities. And the second is it's time for us to live the 3 C's. Let's look at the four cultures that sustains reform communities first. And to help capture these four cultures, let's look at the Clapham sect or the Clapham group. And let's look at them again and see and study how they had impact on society, and let's learn from the approach that they adopted. Bruce Hindmarsh, in his article on William Wilberforce and the abolition of the slave trade, a gallery of aristocratic activists, described the Clapham sect as one of the most elite and effective bands of Christian social reformers ever. They were a group of well-connected and well-heeled individuals. They combined their considerable talents and expertise, their zeal and optimism in a very concerted campaign of national reform. He also went to say that beyond the abolition of slavery, the Clapham group also improved the quality of education given to the poor, and their humanitarian ideals helped bring about a more egalitarian society. This sect pioneered techniques of mobilizing public opinion that today have become commonplace in democracies. They exploited the media outlets of the day, lectures, billboards, newspapers, pamphlets. They made effective use of voluntary societies and the use of petitions to exert public pressure on Parliament. Their advocacy was marked by careful research, planning, and strategy. And if you remember lifelong learning, we talked about researching and picking up information and knowledge. They kept the long view on completing projects. The abolition of slavery took 20 years. They recognized each other's passions and supported one another in addressing them. They were committed to lifelong friendship, and mutual submission was the norm. We have several significant lessons to learn from this group. The first is that they had unity of purpose. Second, they were committed and resilient. Third, they demonstrated the value and power of volunteerism. They had a strong voice for the less privileged, and the entire group displayed and manifested the reformers' mindset. In this sect, whenever a new cause was championed by the Clapham Friends, a society was organized to carry it out. This is a key strategy I don't want you to miss. Are we ready to establish societies, reform teams around causes and deep-seated problems? When people become involved with a cause greater than them, when they start looking outward in the same direction, something significant begins to happen. A movement begins. Communities form. But to sustain this movement and build the communities, a reformer's culture needs to be incubated and nurtured. We need to establish a culture where reform thrives and the individual reformers have room to express their gifts, and they're able to apply their knowledge and their competence in a collaborative manner rather than competitive atmosphere. And I believe that there are 4 cultures that differentiate reformers' communities from ordinary communities. And those 4 cultures are cultures that it's important we fully understand how they work and what sustains them and what enhances them. The four cultures are a culture of honor, a culture of love and service, a culture of lifelong learning, that's come up again, and a culture of action. So let's look at the first one, the culture of honor. The culture of honor is like glue. It keeps the separate pieces of the puzzle together. Remember the puzzle, we talked about it in the last video? It can be described as the cement that joins bricks together so they are impenetrable. Each reformer is a building block that stands alone. As they become part of a community, a soldier in the army, the culture of honor binds them together. The principle of honor says that accurately acknowledging who people are will position us to give them what they deserve and to receive the gift of who they are in our lives. The key here is accurately acknowledging who people are. When we do so, we will begin to value the gifts and talent each person carries. We will not look down on anyone based on their perceived outward appearance or status in life. This is not as easy as it sounds, because society has actually taught us to esteem ourselves above others and to consider ourselves better than others. But a community creates a culture of honor as the members of that community learn to discern and receive people in their God-given identities. Each person learns to say, you have something I don't have, and I need what you have. Let me try to simplify this point. Many years ago, I had the opportunity of sitting in on a John Maxwell training course. Over a period of 3 days, I listened to many valuable principles that he taught. But the one principle that struck me and has stuck with me is John Maxwell saying, I give a 10 to everyone I meet for the first time. He marks their forehead with an invisible 10. That number drops below 10 or remains at 10 depending on the quality of their discussion and, more importantly, their understanding of who they are. So everyone is honored as they score a 10. Honor empowers people. Honor creates an atmosphere where the community becomes a strong, supportive family. And that strong, supportive family is characterized by one singular quality, and that's love. A loving family creates an environment that has certain ingredients that allow family members to thrive, to excel, to grow, and express their true creative self. Just think of a loving family and the goodness that sort of flows out of that. These ingredients are similar to what allows a tree to grow. Well-watered soil with plenty of sunshine and right nutrients. A reformer's community needs to create a similar kind of environment. An environment that is not competitive and celebrates each person's uniqueness. An environment that allows mistakes, because through mistakes, growth comes. This is an environment where the family fights together for a common cause against a common enemy, and no one is left alone in the battlefield. This is an environment where family sticks together and builds a united front. So now let's look at the next culture, a culture of love and service. It was Martin Luther King Jr. that said, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined through service. Love and honor underlie a culture of service. The strength of a reformer's community lies in the willingness of each reformer to serve at two levels. The first is in serving one another within the community, offering help and assistance through genuine love and care. If we're not able to care for one another, how do we care for those whose lives we wish to impact? Mother Teresa said, never ever worry about numbers. Help one person at a time and always start with the person nearest you. This is the second level of service, serving the one whose life you are willing and wanting to change. Service is doing what is not always convenient. It is giving of yourself when no one is watching, and there is no self-glorification or gratification. Let's look at the Dubai story. A love for a people and a willingness to serve. I heard so much about Dubai, and after all the sort of noise and attention, I decided that, you know what, I've got to visit Dubai. So a few years ago, I decided to visit with my family and to see what all the fuss was about. Dubai is an amazing city that in the 1950s was a small village of tents and mud huts with a few traditional canoes moored in the muddy water of a modest creek. Today, Dubai is a spectacular city that has experienced spectacular growth and an amazing development. This tiny emirate has raised its profile globally through a range of bold developments and clever ideas. You have the free zones for business that have made it a regional center for many firms. You have the Dubai International Airport. You have the world-famous ports, the Dubai International Financial Center, and they have the most stunning hotels in the world. And the list goes on and on. These bold developments created a phenomenon described as a strategic vortex by Saab Agner and Jeffrey Sambler in their book, Sand to Silicon: Achieving Rapid Growth Lessons from Dubai. The sheer magnitude and speed of development creates a momentum that makes development unstoppable. A strategic vortex is like a tornado, and it creates a springboard for future development and significant asset creation that leads to continuously greater shipping capacity, more free zones, more hotels, and more of the spectacular. So it makes development go at a speed that makes it almost unstoppable. There's a phrase that caught my attention in this book, and that phrase is the observation that there's a strong bond between the people of Dubai and the ruling family, the Al Maktoum family. This is a leadership that loves and honors its people. Reformers as solution carriers, when they work together as reform teams, can actually use their collective knowledge and experiences to design strong, integrated programs with lasting impact. This is like compound interest. The knowledge of each reformer is compounded as they work together to solve societal problems. The DNA that makes this work is really an atmosphere of respect and esteeming others above oneself. There's no room for pride. There's no room for the attitude of, I know it all, and I have nothing more to learn from you. The prevailing spirit in this community is a spirit of teachability. You're ready to learn from others. Everyone is willing to learn, and knowing that there's always a lot more out there. As a reformer, let me ask you, do you embrace the learning experience through coaches and mentors? Do you have mentors who speak into your life and who pour into you pearls of wisdom? Do you access free and inexpensive learning on educational sites like Udemy and Coursera, like I mentioned before? It is time to tap into wells of knowledge that you may be the best at what you were designed to do. It's time. And now let's come to the 3 C's. I started this session by saying to you that this is about you and the role you can play as you rise up and take your place and as you get into position. To be effective in this army, there are 3 C's that are critical that would be good for you to lay hold of: courage, consistency, and commitment. Be courageous. Step out of your comfort zone. Take risks. There's a wonderful quote I love. It says, "This is your moment. Throw off the lines. Leave behind the safe harbor. Catch the wind and sail into the open waters. Seek adventure. Go after your dreams. Discover your life." That quote says so much. Go after your dreams. Discover your life. Seek adventure. And the second C, be consistent. And third, stay committed. Another quote says, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step." Stay committed. Now let's look at the last culture that is required to create and establish dynamic communities of reformers. And this is the culture of action. Let's do it. This is a call to action. This course is about a bold declaration that it is time to take action. It is time to make things happen. And you know what? It has started. That's why you are on this course. You can hear the sound, that new sound, the sound of the reformer arising. And I can see the army, that army, undaunted, unstoppable, arising. So right now, I welcome you, soldier, to the war for the soul of your nation. Come on board, sign on, join the community of effective, game-changing reformers. Thank you.